We could, there'll still be supplemental tryouts, so I think that would be something, I mean, obviously we got injuries to deal with, that is an issue, so, and I do know most of the teams end up with supplemental tryouts usually afterwards anyways, and so probably just talking to the coaches to make sure they're aware. And
if you have if anybody has a situation where they cannot make a tryout, just submit a request, an email to myself. I'm the travel commissioner. If it's high school, you can also do so to Tom. But just give us, your email, your information up front, and then we'll be aware of it. Some people can make one, can't make both. If it's a case of a surgery, maybe that's a little different, but as long as we're aware.
No.
So they can play just U16?
Yes.
And another question was kind of related. I have a 03 who's going to be a freshman. Who would like to play high school, but age-wise can only try out for U14. So ideally, this is a kid that wants to play high school, but would he have to choose? Or could he try out as a U14 and ask to be looked at as a play-up for U16 and play high school?
If you're a freshman, you can play.
High school, but then if you have to choose high school or U14, because I'm assuming those two schedules are not linked together.
Yeah, actually we were, so U14 travel, and then, so we were setting it up so you could do both. And we were trying to avoid, actually it's ironic because we were saying that could exist. We're trying to adjust the schedule so that the Bantam 03 team in your case and all the high school teams would not practice at the same time, so that he could end up playing in both.
He could do both.
Yes.
So if you have an 03, you're going to try out for U14, but wanted to look, so you're saying that if they try out and they want to play up, you put in a request that they try out for their birth year, and then do they only try out one time and be evaluated to decide if they're enough to do that?
Yeah, so if you've got an 03 this year wanting to play high school, there would be a play-up request for the U14 if they want to try out for U15 or U16 or U18. But they could still play. They could play for the U14 team and still play for high school. So we're trying to work the schedules up so they can do both. That is the
But if
right.
they wanted to be considered, you put in for the play-up and then you just try out one time and they decide whether you can move up. Or do you try out
What team do you want to play on? Do you want to play on the U16, U18, or high school?
Well, that wants to play high school.
High school's not a playoff.
That's right.
They'll just try out for high
No,
school.
it wouldn't be, but if they wanted to try out for U16.
That would be
a play-up request. Yes.
But they only try out for the U14 and it's just decided when
That's correct.
Correct.
Yeah, they would still try out for U14.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And then if they decide to play both sides, is there any break in the cost? Because otherwise, I mean, obviously to play high school and to play a U team, you're looking at $4,000. So there's no break in cost if they decide to play both.
Not at this time. We've had discussion about that, but not at this time because we haven't come to a full conclusion how we've organized that yet. So I can't give you a straight answer. At this point, no, but that's something we're still evaluating. There's been a lot going on between now and when we formed as a board. Technically, we were formed as a board about 2 weeks ago. But we've been meeting for the last month. There's been a lot of discussion, and that's part we haven't come to resolve yet, but we're trying to get that ironed out here in the next week or so.
I have to ask a question. This is on high school level, because high school is obviously getting a little bit thinner, and we're doing what we can to have fun. If there is no financial support from wherever, if you're gonna pull 18 skaters from the U18 level and 18 skaters from the U16 level, and it is financially constraining, we're gonna destroy high school hockey. You will have house league from the mites to the sports, and you'll have it again at the high school level. You've got to find a way to make it all go. And I know you guys scheduling has done a great job. I know they have. I've been in a lot of those meetings where Monday's high school night, Tuesday nights, and Thursday, you guys have done great. But if there's no financial support, high school's gonna fall apart at the seams. We just don't have the numbers that we need to have.
We don't.
And I mean, I'll speak to that. I mean, my son plays at an 05 level. We barely got enough to play for a travel team this year. So we're approaching even worse conditions than what you have. So I understand where you're coming from. I would like to provide some financial support. We just haven't come up with a good structure for that yet. I guess is probably the best way to do that. You did have 2 teams last year, a U16 and a U18 team, as well as the 6 high school teams. And I understand, and we're trying to accommodate that because, again, we want to provide all the opportunities for the kids to play at every level here. So all that said, I don't have an answer yet. That's something we are working on. I do understand that. Even we've had discussions even with some of the travel players. Ice time is always great. Kaylee would love it if some of the travel players would come and play house because that can help raise the level of house players as well. But that becomes a financial burden in most cases, and my son being one of them, we missed 2/3 of the game, if not half the games, because we're traveling those weekends. So it's not always fair to their team either, so it's kind of a balance between that. So, in the back.
Well, I have a follow-up comment, but comment is, from the financial side, the program is wonderful. I have kids that play, they both played on 2 different teams, and we paid for our entire high school hockey for some years. So, yeah, it was a pain in the ass, and I had to look a little bit to get out there and do those kind of things, but that program is a God fit for people that have more than one kid in, or people that want to have more than, play on more than one team. So, I just want to pitch the book.
Thank you.
The other question I have is, and I know the board is moving forward, but, you know, looking at the numbers, we didn't have enough numbers to really have 6 high school teams last year. Okay, it was abysmal hockey, and I hate to say that, but it was. Okay, what are we doing? What planning are we doing this year, and what criteria are we going to use if we do?
Tommy's going to talk about fundraising here in a second to kind of help with the question. And I'm new to high school, so I'm going to kind of speak to this. And Steve, correct me if I'm wrong here, but so because the discussion did come up about the number of teams and number of players we have in high school. From my view, and for those of you who are new to high school, we run a high school league. We don't run the teams. The teams are all independent, as you guys all know. So at some level, I can only control whether you want to participate in our league. If a team decides they don't want to form, that obviously then creates an issue with scheduling. But at some level, I don't feel it's ours as a board to tell you high school teams, the 6 high school teams, which 6 can form, or which 4 can form, or which 2 have to fold. So I don't feel that's our vision, and I'm not sure if that's what you're asking. I understand there is a number issue.
There's a number issue.
And we talked about that at the very beginning of the slide, that the numbers have been declining.
I understand what you're saying, but it's also got to be safe.
Yeah.
There were kids out there last year that shouldn't have been out there. With the level of talent, there was some talent out there, there was a safety factor. Guaranteed. And I don't think anybody can sit in here and say there was.
Okay.
Yeah, as part of high school, the last 6 or 7 years, you know, we've really come to a critical, numbers here in the last few years. In fact, that's part of the reason why we had early tryouts, just to try to get a feel for the numbers. And, we really don't know until we do have tryouts to see how we can really allocate players. We're at as I mentioned, a critically thin part of the numbers right now, and that's part of what this group is trying to do, is build those numbers at the grassroots so that this won't happen in the future. What we're trying to do today is to try to organize the schedule so we didn't have those kind of conflicts like we've had in the past with the travel teams or the pre-post teams and the high school teams. And as far as high school, the structure of high school will stay essentially the same. It will operate under a committee or a board, much like it has in the past. The week-to-week functions, the scheduling is all going to remain essentially the same. But again, the numbers, that's a real critical factor. We probably won't know that until after we have some of the high school tryouts. And certainly, I think safety is one of the primary things we want to look
Thanks, Steve. Well, Cutter, obviously you raised great points about the numbers being an issue. Sir, you also talk about the cost of trying to play both the travel and the high school. So Craig's in a tough position because as, you know, a brand new organization, we've definitely talked about these things. The goal of the organization completely is to allow enough benefits to where it is feasible to participate in all parts of the program that are available inside the Fort Wayne Amateur Hockey Association. That's house league, that's travel, and that's definitely high school as well. So we see the importance of all of them. We'd love to get it to the point eventually where we can have the type of numbers to where there's enough numbers to fill all of those different buckets, and people just find, based on their desires as a customer, where they want to end up. I've also been appointed the chair of the marketing and the fundraising committee, and I'll remind you all again that the volunteer part of this organization, the success of the organization is going to rely not only on the people that are at the front of this room, but everybody that's in this room to be able to work inside of the committees and make all of the different parts of the organization strong. So I encourage you again, back at that back table as you go to leave, if you're interested in volunteering, please sign up. But to your point, I think that by combining as one unit, the fundraising opportunities that we have together compared to a one-off Nelson's Chicken on a Saturday afternoon, not to say that I'm always behind Nelson's Chicken, but if we can combine as one organization, do things like the yearbook, maybe expand the yearbook, get those dollars a little bit higher in fundraising, some of the things that we're going to coordinate with the Comets on, some of the things that we've talked with Peg on the ability of the association maybe being able to do some things inside of the facility to raise some money, all things that have never been available to us. And the reason that Craig doesn't want to commit is because he's smart. We don't know what the fruits of that labor is going to be yet, but the hope and the goal is to get it so that we can start working together as a group and continue to increase the amount that's in those coffers through fundraising so that we can provide a benefit to where if you're playing on the U18 team and you want to play high school, you get some crazy discount 2-for-1 type deal. We're just not quite there yet. But that is the goal of the committee that I'll be forming to try to continue that effort so that we can get some sponsorship dollars and fundraising dollars in to help some of those issues you guys are asking about.
Hey, is there a way?
Sorry, I'll come.
You're all right.
I'll come back.
And I'm gonna go to the fundraising aspect when we talk about the yearbook. From a high school standpoint, it was a great tool for each individual team. Because each individual team, each parent that would solicit and get funds, 100% of it went back to that parent and help their high school, help offset.
Correct.
Now, with this organization, to me, it sounds like it's one for all and all for one. Is that how, is it still going to be driven individually, so it's the same format as years past?
The intent was to be the same format as the year past and expand it. So if you had a kid playing travel and, in your particular case, if you had a kid playing travel in high school, technically you got two teams to pay for, but we're going to incorporate that same yearbook for both so you can potentially sell it for both. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think when we've done the budgets together, I've left, for all intents and purposes, I've left that alone, meaning whatever money that was raising last year stays the same as the previous year. So, Bill.
With the whole stated purpose of trying to bring hockey and Fort Wayne up to some of the other areas, let's say, or at least be kind of consistent, is there any way that Land can bring down the price per hour of ice to be more consistent with teams also in the other areas? Because that might solve some of those problems, because I am astonished.
Bringing prices down, I'll tell you that.
I know that, I was asking it sort of rhetorical, but there it's up. Because lower pricing brings in more players.
I understand that.
Now, you might take a hit on the first year or two, but then you've got your pipeline filled.
I can't speak to that, so I'm not sure.
Go on.
I'm sure I'm supposed to answer that question.
In terms of individual player sponsorship, if I go out and I get sponsors for my kids like in years past, still like warm-up shirts that those business names go on, or how do we present that to potential sponsors?
I'm not sure we've worked through the details. Again, we were looking at a much higher level. I think our intent was to try and leave those fundraising opportunities alone, and we're trying to find larger opportunities. Some of those might get tweaked, or we might be able to offer, hey, if you get on the t-shirt for an extra X amount of dollars, we'll get you this too as well. So it might be a sell-up type thing. So you get the same dollars you got before, but we might be able to get more organizations to kind of get a little bit, and you get a percentage of that. So.
Some companies are only give $50.
Yeah.
But that's $50, so don't forget the little guys.
No, I'm all for that. I mean, I think there's a lot of parents out there that pay for a lot of their ice bills, selling $50 ads on a t-shirt, which is pretty much a gift to give you $50 for your son to play. I get it. So I think we're gonna stay consistent. What we're looking for from a much larger fundraising to provide coffers that we can do more things with. One of the other things we're looking at doing, I didn't mention this, but we do have a Lister fund. We want to continue to fund that as well, so that gives opportunities, scholarship opportunities for those that can't afford to play hockey and they can still get in it. So, yes, over here. I'll come back to you.
What benefits or incentives, or what's your idea of getting the kids that are leaving back here? What are you doing to make these people come back?
I'm not making them come back because I can't make them do anything. So.
What are you doing to draw them back here?
I think one of it is to put, obviously, Kaylee's got a little bit of a brand with his name alone. I think putting him in charge of player development and coaching development, I think is going to help to kind of drive a more organized solution. Offering additional skill sessions, which are specific to skills, that we have coaches on the ice that are teaching the kids specifics and not necessarily a coach that's teaching them the flow drill or whatever, kind of going back and teaching the skill sessions. Dry land training would be another opportunity that, we're trying to do that. I think we're trying to offer more. I don't want to, or we don't want to as a board, overextend ourselves yet, so I think there could be more in the future as well. Again, this is a work in progress, but our intent, or my intent, and I think that as well as the board's, is to be at that high level, and we'll continue to find ways to get us there. So I'm not sure I got all the solutions for you today, but I know we're going in the right direction where I want to be. If I had my way, I'd like to bring them all back now. Nate was a prime example, and I'd like to show people that they can do that. I know Kaylee's mentioned a number of times that it's not about always where you're playing the ice, it's about being on the ice. And there's kids that are in a car for 6 hours to be on the ice for an hour and a half. I mean, if you spent that time and actually were on here for an extra skill session, you'd be money probably well ahead, even though you're not playing up in Chicago.
And with that, are you gonna offer more ice time for the kids? Because obviously, you're talking straight on ice time and being on ice more, so we're gonna pay the same price and get 2 extra skill things a month. That's the incentive of, that's the key to make everybody better, 60 skills a month. Why not have 2 extra skates during the week? You keep bringing up the skating and what we're gonna do here, but you're not offering.
Well, part of it is we don't have enough ice. So if your kids want to practice at midnight, we can do that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, the problem is we're running out of ice as it is. So to get them on the ice 4 times a week is going to be kind of a challenge. Get them on the ice in the weekends would be a possibility. Again, this is a work in progress. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect this year. I think as we're trying to move in the right direction. Hopefully people see that we're moving in the right direction and we're not doing what we just did before. Ideally, I'd like to get the kids an extra hour of ice a week, but there's also budget constraints with that as well. So I think we're trying to do a nice balance between that for now. Yeah. Yes.
Hey, real quick, we're talking about dwindling numbers of kids, obviously at some of the U5 or the 05 level and on to high school, and obviously when you turn off the tap when they're mites, it's harder to get those kids. It's a dwindling every year, it's a dwindling pool of players. In the old days of McMillan and in other places, and this is probably maybe more of a Canland question, there were things like equipment rentals or equipment loaning programs and those sort of things. Whether or not the financial burden is that great with buying new equipment for a kid that's 5 or 6 or 7 years old trying to start hockey, is there any possibility to start enticing some of those kids downtown that the perception is that hockey is an expensive sport? You not only have to pay a league fee, you got to get skates, helmets, sticks, pads, all that stuff. Has any thought been given to that, or the grassroots some way to to provide equipment to kids that want to try the sport. I know we do try hockey for 3 days, where you take that and expand it.
Yes, and we actually do, I mean, I'll speak for that, they do have extra equipment the kids can use, so it's not just on try hockey for 3 days. So if kids wanna try at a might level, young level, I mean, obviously they're not gonna always have a band level probably.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, if nobody knows that that program is in place, they might not even consider letting their kids play hockey at that age. Yeah.
Yeah, we are, Tommy did mention that, we are putting money in for equipment for Learn to Skate as part of our budget, as well as trying to market to more people. Some of the discussion was trying to bring, some of the summer camps that exist around the area back into Canland, during the summer to try and introduce them to hockey, hopefully get them, or in skating, and hopefully get them connected. So, that's good.
What about bringing skate schools like Turkhead and some other ones that might be able to help those players who do want to move up a level, or the elite, the players who do want to, keep moving and going, like Turkhead, Morristown, things like that, bringing them in and offering those camps here locally so that we can, that's a little bit more developed as well, rather than going, to Troy, Michigan or wherever for these other places. Is that going to maybe be in the future where we can bring those things to Fort Wayne?
Kaylee Lee from the ice. That's probably a good question for Kaylee.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just say, we do have Laura Stan
Right.
coming again, and
Yeah.
Billy can't come as well.
Okay.
I do know that Laura Stan's been here the last couple of years, and, I mean.
Well, that's skate, but I was talking more stick handling,
Yep.
all that.
Yeah, I understand that, so I think those would be nice to get more of those during the summer if we can.
Yeah.
But that is, again, kind of a work in progress. I think I could see something of that in the future. So they're gonna want to make sure we've got numbers for that, so I think it's gonna be a little bit of a balance between those two, so. All the way back.
The high school level, if you're talking about award and handling, scheduling, when is that gonna be given out for high school teams? And the second part of the question is, how do you get across what access or portal or whatever's being put in place for us to see what I can avail? Because last year was that.
It was.
So the schedule is really close. We're still working on a few little tweaks. We should have that out probably in a week, I would expect. So we're kind of working on that. And then the crossover games, I'm not sure how you're scheduling the crossover stuff.
As far as high school goes?
Yeah, just it's ice availability for
We
them.
had one crossover weekend, and every other weekend we were told to blackout date, so we never got any other requests.
That was last year. So how are you setting it up this year for them to?
We actually will go through the teams, and we'll be scheduling with Tom and I will work on scheduling those crossovers with each individual team. So we'll put a program together for the team. Not today, but it doesn't mean that we won't do that. Our goal is definitely to be communicating a lot easier and want to make it a lot more user friendly. When I first came in, I probably had 15 or 18 people saying I want to schedule. So at that point in time, everybody wants it between 7 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock at night. And we had certain criteria that we're trying to create for the high schools, the travel teams, as well as for our in-house and our travel teams. We've met most of that criteria. We're really trying to meet it. So on the weekends, that's a separate piece. But once we get our week schedules done, then we will go to the weekends.
Okay, I just want to kind of see what your thinking is behind allowing kids to not play high school or playing like either U16 or U18, or people with a couple comments about that. I guess, we want all the teams to succeed, and like you said, we want all the kids to move up that want to move up and develop as players. But I guess if you're making the decision that they can pick to play just track or and then they'll be moving up to high school age, then high school succeed. And that's kind of where a lot of the funds and revenue coming in here.
I guess my fear would be, so I can't make anybody do anything.
No,
So if a player decides that he or she wants to play at a travel team and not at a high school team. If we don't offer the travel team, more than likely he's gonna go somewhere else, or she's gonna go somewhere else. May or may not. I would rather them stay in our program and have them develop, so I wanna provide that opportunity for both. I realize it's competing as well, but you know, it's just something we need to continue to build on. I'm gonna speak to this because I think it's kind of a key. I understand high school has been dropping, and I mentioned it, my son's age, we're at a real dip. We barely had enough to form a team last year at a travel level. And to the point that the coaches in our age group, up and down, are pretty much have come to the conclusion, self-conclusion, that boy, by the time we get there, high school won't even exist because there's not enough players. There's only so much we can do to fix that. We can't fabricate players. We can't go and just grab somebody off the street that's playing, you know, street hockey and put them in a set of pads and put them on the ice. So that's why we're trying to do what we can to provide the offerings that we can at those levels, make sure we can get everybody to play that wants to play. And we're really going to focus on putting more kids on the ice at a younger age. So by the time they get to high school, we don't have that issue. Good, bad, or ugly, that's where we're at. And there's nothing I can do except go back in time and fix that. And that's not possible, obviously. So we're trying to make the best of what we can. I'm going to come back to you and go all the way in the back with the light green shirt, all the way in the back. I was going to say, I actually, my men's league plays, I get off the ice about midnight, so, and I play here. Yeah, I understand. So that is part of the schedule. There is that's really Peg's, because it's her customers. We're one of her larger customers, obviously, but she does have other customers as well. So from the schedules we're looking at, we're putting the practice times at a point that's appropriate for the age groups. So we're not having kids get off the ice at midnight. Obviously, that's not what we want. So they need to be in school, and they need to be focused on their schoolwork as well. That has to be number one priority. So we need to make sure we got those ice times available. That is part of that master schedule, and there's a lot kind of moving around. So you in the green right there, and I'll come back to you. Go ahead. Yep. Yes. We'll get that posted out on the website and send an email through the database so everybody has access to how that request would work. Back to you.
Just a quick question in terms of the travel team. I know Haley's going through the process of interviewing Coach John, I believe.
Yes.
Do we have a list of candidates yet? Do we know what we're looking at for the 18 and the 16 and the 14?
18, I think, is still going to be legs. 16, I don't know if we've gotten a coaching application for that yet that I'm aware of. I haven't asked Kaylee where we are at. I know in the rest of the travel teams, there's 1 or 2 spots that are still open, but for the most part, I'm not sure about the U16. I think the U18, generally what I understand, is still going to be legs.
Okay, outside of legs, we're pretty confident it's going to run the 18, we don't know about the 16.
Correct. There's one for both. So it sounds like we got a U16 as well. So I haven't tried to be honest. I've let Kaylee run with that, so I'm not trying to micromanage it. So I'm just letting him. So I don't know what that is off the top of my head. So I apologize. Yeah, right now I don't think any of the travel teams have any grade requirements. I know some of the high school teams do. Right. Yeah, kicked off that. That's a detail we probably haven't addressed specifically. Yeah. No, that's probably a detail we need to address, because I do believe, I mean, our kids, as much as you want all of our kids to succeed at hockey, they still need to succeed in life, so they need to make sure they have good school grades, so we want to make sure we keep that up. So, do you have a question, Mr. McKinney? Yes, if we have coaches available, if we have the coaches for those teams, we'll give them, so.
I'm going a little bit off high school here. Back to like the select and travel teams, are those gonna be formatted the same from a treasurer and a manager? And with the coach, we are managing and scheduling our own games?
You'll be working through Jeff for scheduling games, to help schedule games, but generally you're doing that. If you're doing, Jeff will help you with like ice times here at Canland, but the rest of the format's exactly the same. The way the treasurers will work, Brian actually is going to oversee all of our treasurers for all the teams, so everything gets fed up through him up to the board. So, so he'll be working with all the treasurers to make sure that accounts are looking right and all that other stuff. So.
Okay. And when, do you guys know when Trine is supposed to open, when 3 more sheets of ice will become available?
That's only 1 sheet of ice, and I can specifically speak to that. Trine will be opened in the fall. Actually should be pouring concrete for the slab, for the ice slab here in the next week or 2. They only have 1 sheet. They only plan on having 1 sheet for now. We haven't had any discussions with Trine yet, because we've had on our plate full with a lot of other things. We'll have some discussions with them. One of the potentials, there's some discussion with Fremont schools having a high school team or 2. So Angola and Fremont might have some high school teams, so we may throw in a mix if that's the case, have them work under our association. And so our high school teams actually may have some travel games where they might be going up there to play. That's all preliminary. There's nothing been really talked about other than some hearsay at this point. I don't even know if they have it. I mean, we're obviously struggling to get 16s. I don't even know if they have enough to get 2. They're going to draw from Southern Michigan, obviously, so they might be able to get a few more, but because there's nothing in Michigan in that area. So, but we'll see from where it goes from there. Any other questions? Pink. Yes, the tryout schedule is actually posted on the website already for high school and all the travel teams. So if you go to, right now, we're using the Fort Wayne Youth Hockey website. So if you go to FWAHA.org, sorry, too many acronyms, .org, and you go to registration, it'll show all the schedules for all the teams. I believe the travel teams are up there, or the high school teams are up there. So it'll go to the new website. It'll go to the new website tomorrow, but if you want to look tonight, you can look there. If not, go to the new website tomorrow. So, any other questions? Sorry, say that again. Part of that is really marketing. So we have a lot of discussions about how we're going to get more kids. One of the programs we're talking about expanding was the skating program, where they get offered skates. So we're trying to work with Canland to maybe expand that to get more kids interested in skating and get them into the Learn to Skate program 1 and 2 and Hockey Fundamentals 1 and 2. Part of it was the discussion of potentially going to some of the camps that exist in the area through the summer and getting them to come here as a opportunity for them to get out and do something different and get them introduced to skating. Kaylee did an awesome job this year we started it last year and he did an awesome job. I think he hit 12 schools. A few before, Try Hockey for Free, and a few after, where he went into the schools, taught them some fundamentals of stick handling, passing, trying to get kids to come out on the ice, and I think we're going to look to expand that. And we're also going to try and find ways with partnering with Parkview to maybe get some of the schools to come in here as a field trip and get them introduced to maybe doing a little Learn to Skate session for the kids when they come out. And Kaylee just mentioned too, the comments since we're partnering with the Comets, they're also gonna be working with the NHL Players Association, which now oversees all the Comet players, and try and get them plugged in as well to try and get some traction with that. So, a lot of things in the works that we're trying to try. We're gonna try a lot of things here in the beginning, and we'll kind of see what sticks and what doesn't, so.
Are you gonna honor the TV and like
Yes.
What was that question?
Team Indiana Blackhawk Dates, it's a high school, so the kids that, for those who don't know, the high school, they can play on about 8 different teams, so I'm being facetious a little bit, but, so there's a Team Indiana team they can play on as well, so, which is all Indiana. I'm learning a lot about high school, I will tell you that. It's been a very interesting last 3 months, so, I learned more about high school hockey and how it was ran in the last 3 months than I probably would ever thought I could learn, so. Any other questions? Awesome. I really do appreciate, we were joking, this is probably the biggest turnout we've had for any meeting. I've been on the hockey board for 3 years, and we were lucky to get 5 people to come to our annual meeting, so I appreciate everybody coming out.